Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is it's Wednesday, June 7th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And a quick look at our daily chart. You can see that this looks like a reversal day. It looks like some topping action here. Several times it looks like we've had some topping action and we just keep pushing higher. So you can't rule out that we won't still go higher. But it does look, we do have a double top in here with a big bearish bar. It didn't push lower. It closed much lower than this bar, but it didn't push as low as that bar. So, um, will we get some follow through buying tomorrow? I guess we'll find out. Um, it does look somewhat like some topping action, so we'll see what happens here. We could still go higher yet. This market wants to go up for now, so don't argue with it. We get these big sell-off days occasionally. I wouldn't call today a big sell-off today. Today was really another range day. It was very similar to yesterday, and then we had the range, and then it broke higher and went a little higher and closed higher for the day, making it look like more like an up day. Today we got just the opposite. It's really a large range day. There were two legs down, but we kind of broke out the overnight, went a little further, and then just kind of chopped sideways. So it's almost the mirror reverse of what we saw yesterday. It's still somewhat of a range type day, but the range did expand as the day went on, just like it did yesterday. Not by much, but it did expand. So, but let's flip over there. We'll take a look at those trades and wrap this day up. Okay, you can see early on we had two legs up, and notice how we didn't quite make a measured leg, and then we got a bigger sell-off. That's generally, if you don't get that measured leg and it comes up short like that, then it probably means you're going to get a bigger sell-off, and so we end up with a leg down, a two-legged correction in the middle, and then another leg down that doesn't quite make it again. So that could mean we may go higher here. Um, Maybe in the overnight we'll run on down and make a measured move or more. We'll just have to see. But early on I had the range up here, and you can see like yesterday it broke out and expanded a little bit to the upside. Today it breaks out and expands a little bit to the low side. So I originally played it in here and then moved it down. So um, and when you move it on down here to where most of these lows are, which are kind of right across here, you can see it fits real nicely on the midline across there. So I believe that to be correct. It's still two legs down, and it's still a fairly decent downtrend. You can see there's a good many trades today off the key entry points. Several second entries and such forth. So a little better trading day today. Uh, Hopefully, if you've been struggling to find some trades, hopefully you found them today. But let's zoom in here and go through these trades, and let's actually pull this up to where we had it, because I'm going to talk about a couple of trades down here. Um, One of these I recorded and I posted it to the site. It's already been posted to the website. It'll come out on YouTube later this evening, so you may see this video first, but that live trade example will be coming out soon. So, but let's zoom on in here so we can see this a little better. Yeah, but early on we had this early trend. We got the break here, and we kind of reversed, and now we're headed to a new high. Um, I like this long just because you got a new low right here, and you get a first entry, second entry. It's a failure, but it's also a second entry long. Second entry long by itself is probably not a good enough reason to take that, because the signal bar is questionable. I think it's only like 4 or 5 ticks. Yeah, 4 ticks. So, when it's that small and you get a setup, you may take it anyway unless it's totally bearish or something. But there's not really enough ticks there to really give you a good feel for a bar with only 4 ticks, 3 or 4 ticks. They're so small. Maybe you take that trade anyway, unless it's, like I said, unless it closed on its very low and it looks super bearish. Um, I'd probably take that trade on a second entry if you like the second entry. Of course, it runs on up, makes a new high, makes one more pullback, and then makes another push up, and then we just start working sideways here. You'd look for the measured move. We hadn't quite got there yet. And you see we end up getting a triple test here and a fairly decent signal bar. It did make a new low. It's lower than the last few bars across there. We're still kind of making lower lows. So I did make that one green, although it's pretty obvious right there that that's a range. If it breaks higher, you'll probably get a scalp. But when it makes a new low like that, sometimes you can get trapped, and you got to be careful. You might wait on a higher low, which we get one, but no way to trade that right into the resistance. Then we drop out of there, and we're just kind of chopping along. There's no way to really trade this. There's no setup or there's no real way to determine really what prices are doing here. If you look, I believe it's pretty close to a measured move. Yep, you can see that. So we just kind of make a measured move down, and then it looks like we're trying to get back up into the upper range. So it's really hard to trade that right there. It's not much rhyme or reason about what's going on. It's hard to determine what's going on. Of course, and now we turn down and you run your trend line off those first two swings. It runs down to the other side. You got a trend coming up, a break, two legs to a new high. There's a perfect second entry off a key entry point that confirms the key entry point. I like entering there. It didn't take right off. As you can see, it gets kind of congested there. You can't really enter anywhere else, so either scratch what you can get out of that or sit there and hope that your read is right and that prices move on, and they do. And that's why I always say just put your stop where it goes. Don't monkey with your trades. Unless you can get out of that with, it gave you a chance to get out with a tick or so a couple of times. If you wanted to exit there, maybe you could, but by the time you could do that, then you would have got your scalp and more. You probably get a runner on this. And so just be careful. I always tell people, trust your reads. If you're sim trading, don't worry about it. Take the trade, let it play out. Don't monkey with it, and let yourself learn to see that sometimes it looks like you're going to get stopped out. And there's a reason we put our stops where we do. And if you put your stop where it's supposed to go, which is one tick above that signal bar, you don't get stopped out. And you'll see that in my trade that I take, my live trade example that I take today. It looks like I'm going to get stopped out, and it does like this. It makes it, except it's a double bottom, and next thing you know, I've got $750 in my account minus commissions. So, but anyway, drops on down, turns out to be a pretty good trade, bounces again right off the key entry point. That's just a first entry though. You get a second entry, no setup. And then you get a failed second entry long, and it makes a double top there as well. I like going short right there. Again, that's a little more advanced trade. It's a failure, failed second entry long. Swings on down, comes back again, and once again you get a second entry here. Actually, this is not a second entry. This is you get a first entry, second entry, and then it runs up, makes a new high. And you do get a break of the trend channel line here, but you get a big bearish bar. You may take that trade. When it didn't break, if it had have broke on lower there, I'd probably say take that as a blue. But when it doesn't trade lower, 2 bars in a row, you got to question it. But you saw it happen right here too. So maybe you still take that. I left it green. Once it breaks lower, it does take on off. And then again, we're just chopping along. And we're getting close to the lows here. And you'll see me, I started thinking, kind of looking for a chance to get long. What I wanted to do on this, let me just explain this real quick. What I wanted to do on this live trade example was kind of demonstrate how I trade ranges and how you look to buy down here and you look to sell up here, because it really looked like it was going to be a range day. I think it was a range day, although range expanded, it was much bigger. So I started looking to buy in here, but never got any setups that I really liked. It's tempting to go short right there. Since we already broke lower and made a new low and there's room to get out between here, you might have even gone short right there. That's a triple test. The problem is most of the support was a little higher here, and there's not much room there, although you have already broken out. And so that kind of that's kind of opened the pathway now for this thing to go lower. So maybe you take that short. I didn't like it in real time. I was really looking to get long because I wanted to demonstrate how to get long off these lows. And so finally it breaks on down, and you get a second entry long right here, a perfect bounce off the lows. I marked it green because taking the the new low right there, generally you want to wait on the higher low, which comes here. And so this one's a little risky, but I demonstrated it anyway. I like the trade. It's a first entry, second entry. It's a second entry long. We're way away from the EMA. It's a perfect bounce off of the overnight low. The odds are you're going to get a scalp even if you're wrong about it reversing yet. And we've already had a break in new low, so there's a good chance this thing could reverse and go straight up like it usually does. Of course, today it didn't do that, but that's why you wait on the second entry. And you'll see me how patient I am in here, and how I don't force a trade until I get the setup. And I finally got one I liked. And this thing came within a tick of stopping me out here. But you'd been better off to wait on this higher low. That would have been a quick, easy move. You wouldn't have batted an eye. And then it comes back, and you get a long right, another a bullish bar, but there's no long. So now you got your break and a new high. I like going short again right there. Second entry short. This is basically a double bottom, so first entry, second entry, and it's a double top, second entry short. You've had a break of your channel. It doesn't quite make a new high because it makes a double top, but that's good enough. There is a lower high here, but it's right into the lows, and it could bounce again. So instead it breaks lower, fails, comes back in, but again it does not take off. There's no setups in here, too congested, there's just nothing. And I like this failure right here. Notice you get a first entry and then you get a second entry. That's congestion. It looks like a lower high, or I'm sorry, a higher low. And it is a higher low because it makes a little momentary double bottom. But there's a good chance you'll get trapped right there. And that's exactly what happened. So I like taking advantage of that trap. And the hope is that since this is already pushed through, it might push on through again, but it doesn't. And you just kind of chop sideways there. You eventually get a 1, 2, 3 triple test with this bar. If it would have closed inside here, I'd say don't take this. I still made this green, but notice again, we've already pushed through, so there's a good chance we could go on through now. When this closes above the resistance right there, if it breaks above that, you'll probably, as long as you got room, you probably get a scalp out of it, maybe more, and you see it take off. That was a nice trade, but it is a little aggressive. So I marked it green. Of course, you run up, you get a first entry, second entry, but no setup right there. And it just kind of drops all the way back down again. Then another first entry, second entry. Now, you do have a trend coming down. You're still looking for prices to try to make a new low here. And so they might fight this support for a few times. If it keeps holding it, they probably give up on the new low and reverse and say it's a range day. But, oops, didn't mean to grab that. But they haven't given up on it yet. You can see, so a second entry short after a break and new high and a nice signal bar. As long as you got room between here and the support, which is this blue line across here, take that trade. You can see it thing. That turns out to be a really nice trade. You get a runner on that. And you're looking for a new low on this anyway. You actually get a couple of legs down, then it runs up, close outside new high. And here you got to be careful because you don't know. There's still a good chance prices could fail, and there's still a good chance they could go lower here. And maybe the range is bigger, which turns out to be the case. So you got to play these little short-term trends. And of course, this one's coming down, and you get somewhat of a close outside. I don't know if that's a convincing close in a new low, so I'm not going to try to get long there or anything. This market's wanting to go lower at this point. Now you get a trend up, close outside, move to a new high, and you got a new low, so you get a first entry. There's a second entry right there, but not a good enough signal bar. That's a third entry. I think you need a lower high or something here, and you get one, but the signal bar is no good. And then finally, you make a new low there, and you get a first entry, second entry. Again, it's a little congested. There's not a lot of room to the low here, but prices are probably going to try to make a new low on this, and this yellow or khaki channel is still in place, so there's a good chance we're going down and making a new low, which we do. That one's a little bit aggressive. It is a 1, 2, 3 triple test too, and it's a second entry short. So even though it's green and it looks a little congested, there's reasons to consider that trade. But as I always say, just be patient, wait on the best setups, and if you do, a few minutes later you get a clear second entry short that confirms a key entry point, beautiful signal bar, that's where you go short. That's the trade right there. And then a few minutes later you get another one just like it. Notice we haven't made it to the lows yet, so it's not a problem that we're not back to the highs. If you get a good enough setup, what you do here, you got a trend coming up, you get a close outside, move to a new high, second entry short. And this is an engulfing bar. This breaks higher and turns and runs all the way out the other side. Maybe what you do here is you let that break lower and drop a limit order in here and see if it'll back up a little bit, which it does. It waits till the next bar, but then it drops on down. It doesn't matter. You could still go short down here. It's a relatively big bar either way, but it's 14 ticks. So for today, it seems like a big bar, but what we've been trading lately, that's not really that large of a bar. If it would have broke higher here and turned down, maybe you go short right there, but it doesn't do that. It can't break higher and it just goes lower. And this is all too choppy. There's actually another second entry here, but you got the trend working up. No break of it yet, and we've tried to go lower multiple times, and this little failed break lower, that makes me leery of trying to get short here again. I think there's some buying coming in other words, so sit and wait on a better setup. If you took that, it works. It is a second entry. They're powerful setups, but they can fail if their context isn't right, and I just don't think the context is right with all that support down there. Didn't draw any lines or anything, but you can see those lines across there. That's where you get the most touches. So you got a lot of support coming in there. There's still plenty of room here, but this is a pretty strong momentum move up, and you just could pull back and go straight higher. So it's just not worth risking there. And of course it bounces again. Get a close outside and look 2 legs up, and next thing you know, you're testing that breakout area again with a big bearish bar way away from the EMA. So that's a first entry, second entry, nice bearish bar. It's testing the breakout area that's held multiple times. What you're trying to do here is just get a scalp back to the trend line, although you may catch the move all the way back to make a new low here. And you don't get a runner on that. Then all of a sudden you get a failed second entry long. Definitely take that failure right there if you're a skilled trader and you're taking failures, but most of you should be leaving those alone. Of course, it runs all the way down, and now it's obvious we're kind of working sideways. Look at the EMA. We're swinging back and forth above and below it. And this is when by now you probably should expand your range some. And there really weren't any more trades in here. We went into this pink range here, and I just don't see anything in there that would. This one, let me show you this one here. This one's somewhat tempting because you do have a new swing high here and you try to go higher once, twice. So it is a failure. There's not much room to that low right there, and that's definitely congested. So even if you don't see support down here, you got to see that congestion. I just don't think you can take that trade. It's tempting, especially such a big reversal bar, but sometimes those are traps, and you see they trapped a bunch of shorts in and they ran it straight up and ran all their stops, and then it comes right back to where it started. So just be careful with those. But, I don't see any reason to try to get long in here, and I don't see any more shorts that I really like either. So there's one other one right. There's one somewhere I thought. Well, maybe it was somewhere else. Oh, it was this one here. Notice you get your clothes outside and you're so far away from the EMA, and it makes that little trap right there and turns down. You might trade that trade right there. Somehow I skipped over that one. I think that's where I expanded things. I would make it green, but that's a possibility right there. The thing here is on this is the first break of this second trend channel. And this is where timing is everything. The idea is that we're probably going to try to get short here, but if you're early, you can get burned. And you could easily be early, and sometimes by trying to wait and make sure you're not early, you're too late. So these are the hard ones. Once you break that trend line, you got to be careful. You generally want to see a close outside and a new high, and we don't have that yet. And you see we went on to make it. The only reason I like that one is because it's so far away from the EMA, which still doesn't mean anything, but there's a good chance we could come back, bounce, and then make the new high, and that's what happens, and then we start a trend back down. So there it is. The only two longs, I think, there's maybe three across here. There's only one blue and a couple of green ones, but that's because that was looking like, that's the overnight lows, and it was looking like the bottom of the range at the time. So, but once you see we're making another leg down, and it's been mostly down since 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you're making a second leg down, so you might get that measured move. So we could have traded. I mean, really, we pretty much traded down from around 9 o'clock until the close. We never really bounced out of there strongly. So, but you still can't ignore the fact that this was a range type day, so you had to be careful when you start to see support. But it's mostly all downhill today, and there's clearly a leg down, a two-legged correction, and then another leg down that does not make a measured move. And so there it is. That's what I saw today. Again, watch for the video on this trade I did live. And trying to think if there's anything else. I think the rest of it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, much better day today than what we have been seeing. We had an extended trend down. We had some second entries. We had a lot of key entry, nice signal bars, some of them second entries. So much better trading today than what we've been seeing. So hope you had a good day today. We're going to be back again to do it tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow we'll wrap this week up. March Thursday. No chart lessons on Fridays. I may, since I'm going to be gone Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I think I mentioned this yesterday. I originally said my fishing trip was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Well, we moved it forward today, changed our boat schedule up, and we're going to be going Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I'll be back Tuesday night. So I should be in the office Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week. And if Friday's not too crazy a day, and there's not some good excuse for me to be out of here early, which is why I usually don't do one on Friday, so I can leave early, get out of here to, early afternoon, just after lunch. That's what I usually try to do, sometimes before lunch. But generally it's 1 or 2 o'clock, and that's when I try to wrap my Fridays up, and that's why I don't do a chart lesson on Fridays anymore. I just need a little bit of a break there one day of the week. So if there's not something crazy going on Friday, I may try to go ahead and do a chart lesson since I was gone for a week, and I'm going to be gone for a couple more days, and try to make up a day for you. But anyway, there it is for today. That's how I saw it. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.